What's going on, everybody? Welcome. Today is Thursday, September 29th, 2022. My name is Jeremy, and this is my first cup. Good morning, Liz, Nathan, Dennis, Shobashi-san, and all the rest of you, whether you're watching live later or listening. Thanks for coming by. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Jenny. People are rolling in. How are you? How's your morning shaping up? What are you looking forward to today? What were the best parts of your Wednesday? How did it go? Did you train? Did you not get to train? Did you have an epiphany in life that's setting the rest of your world on fire? I don't know. What happened? I want to know. Tell me. Dennis says, dragon hoodie in the house. You better believe it. I don't have as many as you do. Definitely don't have as many as Craig. But with cooler weather, it's time for hoodies again, which is good because I got to say, fall clothing is the best clothing, right? Like fall clothing is the coziest. Speaking of which, I am. I slept funny. You ever have those nights where you sleep perfectly well, but you dream so hard you don't feel rested? That's kind of what happened. I had caffeine a little bit too late in the day, and I did not sleep well. And I had weird dreams about things I'm doing for clients. Like not even like weird, interesting stuff. It was planning. It was like, okay, I'm going to go do this, and then I got to go over here, and I got to do this. I have a client putting on an event this weekend. And I knew it was going to happen, which is why I blocked off most of my Friday. I knew I was going to get an email that said, hey, Jeremy, here's this weird random last minute thing I need you to do. Yup, here we go. So I kept much of my Friday open. And what will I be doing, you ask? I will be driving around Burlington to get the pieces to make an entire breakfast for 100 people, including coffee pots and things. In fact, as I started to ask questions, I finally just said, you know what? I'll bring everything. I have to assume nothing is available, including extension cords. So that's going to be a good time. I'm a fixer. When there's a problem, I take care of it. Jenny had a perfect Wednesday. My kids and Matt planned some great surprises for me. I feel so special. Oh, that's awesome. All right. Kelly says, wouldn't be for a tournament, would it? Nope. But Jenny adds on, when I worked as a cashier for Walmart, I used to have recurring panic dreams about people forgetting their milk. And I wasn't the only cashier. Others had the same dream. Oh, that's an interesting panic dream. People forgetting their milk. Let me guess. You had kids at that point. You must have. Because I can't imagine somebody without kids feeling panic over not having milk. So it must have been like a panic empathy thing. Yeah. What did I do yesterday? Andrew and I had a call talking about a number of things. Our presence at Rhode Island Comic-Con, free training day, all the things lining up. Let me tell you what, you guys. So there's something that I shared with Andrew last year at some point, but we've talked about it several times this year. There's something that I refer to as free training day magic. Somehow things just work out. It's mind-blowing. things you're like, oh, that's going to be a tough one to solve. And then something randomly happens that solves the problem. It's great. And it allows me to not stress too much. So because of that, we've shot kind of big on some things. Like VIP bundles, which I'll tell you what, we laid out even more of what's going in them. They're going to be awesome. They're already on track to be awesome. I'm pumped. Oh, Jenny says, nope, she didn't have kids yet. But I'm the oldest kid in a divorced family dynamic. So maybe that was it. Maybe. Who knows? I couldn't tell you. But what else happened yesterday? Did the books. Did a couple things around here. We've taken step 1 in my bathroom renovation. Some of you may not have known I was trying to renovate the bathroom this summer. We took step 1. A couple holes punched. We'll get there. It's all good. What's going on today? What do you have going on today? Oh, and I went to the gym. And I did a bunch of work at Panera until I got sick of the internet going up and down. So I left. It was very frustrating. After I did something I almost never do, I came home after the gym and did more work. I did about another half hour of email. Wrote back to a bunch of you. A bunch of you got emails yesterday that otherwise you would not have received. Today is insane. I have to do intros and outros for Tuesday's episodes. And I'm stacked with meetings and have to do things until I think 3:30. From 7:30 to 3:30. It's packed. There's very little in there that I could push off or not do. And it will be interesting to see when I eat. Yeah, so there we go. All right. You guys are not talkative this morning, which doesn't give me much to go on. Oh yeah, Mark says new episode. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the reminder. So today we do have an episode of Martial Arts Radio. Let's see if it is up. If it's the one that I hope it is, I'm super duper excited to tell you about it. Yep. All right. I believe this is going to go down as a top 10 episode. Yeah, let's go. No, I don't want commercials. Shush. Fine, whatever. I won't show you anything. Episode 749 of Martial Arts Radio is out today, where we bring back Tony Blauer. Here's a fun story. I've shared this fun story with a couple people. I will share this with you here. This is not part of any kind of intro or outro. It just is. When I was traveling to Portland to teach out there in Tacoma, I was randomly in the Newark airport and I got an Instagram message from Tony Blauer. And I was like, oh, here's another fake account trying to get me to send money or whatever. Because I like Tony. I pay attention to what Tony does, but we haven't talked since he came on the show. I mean, we shot a couple emails back and forth, and I emailed with his assistant a little bit over the next probably 2 to 3 months. But that was episode 108. We're going back a ways. And so this message comes up, and I'm looking, and I'm like, okay. And I check, and the account tied to the account messaging me is verified. It was actually Tony. I was like, oh. So Tony and I chatted for a little bit, and while I was waiting in line at Starbucks to get my coffee, and he came back on the show, and we had an awesome chat. If you don't know who Tony Blauer is, let's put it this way: if you've taken a class with me, a seminar with me, some of the principles that I teach, I got from Tony. I take them in a very different direction but they're rooted in some of the same observations. And that's a lot of what we talk about. This isn't a story about him and how he got to where he is. If you want that, you can go back to episode 108. But it is a conversation on violence and the world and communication and what's keeping him motivated. He's been doing this for decades. And I think it's a great episode, and I hope that you enjoy it. Good morning, Brian. Kelly has Tony's full contact suit, the high gear suit, for self-defense classes. Jenny says, wait, Tony Blauer, as in one of our best-selling interview episode-based books? Shameless plug. Yep, and we should probably do a second edition or an updated version of that with the new episode in it. Dennis says, not knowing who Tony Blauer is like not knowing who Ric Flair is. Woo. Woo. Jenny says, Dennis, did you just have a mild cardiac episode? I'm proud of this episode. The only thing that I think would have made it better is Tony and I being in the same space. There's a dynamic that I would like to get to with him, because especially now versus when I first talked to him, I'm a completely different martial artist. My understanding of things, the way I teach, what I teach is very different now than it used to be. And I think to be in the same room would give us more of an opportunity to have conversation, like a deeper conversation. Tony goes, like he is prolific in his writing, and he's a talker, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. So here's to hoping that third time that I connect with Tony will be in person. Oh, and there's a hysterical story. Oh, I don't remember if this was in the episode or not. I don't want to spoil it if it is, because we talked for a little bit after we wrapped. Anyway, it's a great story. The whole thing, the whole episode's great. Enjoy it. Oh, good times. Jenny says, I'm already updating that book. Good. Hey, does everybody know we did an updated version of the Origins of Master Hopkick? And by we, I mean I had nothing to do with it, and I'm very excited. I like when the team puts together things and I don't have to be involved, because it allows me to be proud of their work. And so that's out. I just ordered a stack of books for my time out teaching in Portland. We'll be doing autograph books out there, and we will. Jenny, by the way, we've got to figure out books for Northeast, and please connect with Justin to talk about South. Okay. Yeah. So those of you not part of the team, you get some really behind the scenes stuff. Kelly says, Dennis, I don't know who Rick is. Oh, Dennis says, Kelly, top 16-time world heavyweight wrestling champion, but also a reference to Stacy saying she didn't know who Rick was on Sunday. And Craig having to console me as a result. Jenny says, the special edition is amazing. We added some great bonus content. You should grab it soon. Don't know how long it will be available. Oh, I love you guys. You guys are too much fun. I need to drink like a big gulp of this. Oh, and I move on. Oh, one of the highlights of my day yesterday, it was a lot later in the day than normal. One of the deer came by and was just kind of standing there, not too far from the patio door, staring at me, chomping away. Just kind of, paying attention, making sure I wasn't trying to cause any harm. Just, I like having the critters in the yard. If there was one major thing I would change about my house, it would be that there was more trees, more woods around, fewer houses someday. All right. Now, we do have some stuff from Frank on our pre-Friday episode of First Cup. And so I'm going to switch over to that now. Shout out and thank you as always to Frank and to Josh for our theme song. Who needs written credits when I can just remember to say things? Do you know how long it took me to remember to thank Josh for the theme song? It was like 2 months. I think I thanked him day one, but then it took a while in my brain. This is a good thing to consider. It took a while for me to get in the habit of thanking him. I wanted to, and I kept reminding myself, and eventually it kicked in, and I tied it to thanking Frank. I tied thanking Frank to our transition into the content that Frank sends over, which is why the credits, if you will, are in the middle of the show. It's like the 12 Months to Health book. It's rooted in tying habits to actions that are already there. Haha. All right, I don't like that layout. I wish I could change the default layout when I share thing to this one. I like this one much better. Today is Confucius Day. Here are 3 of his quotes that are applicable not only to life, but also to martial arts. Oh, by the way, one of the things on my list that I would like to give to somebody, you see that the graphics at the top where it says First Cup and the whistlekick logo and everything? I want someone to make a better version of that. In fact, you don't even have to do it. You just need to figure out what we want and get somebody to make it on Fiverr, and I'll reimburse you. Is anybody willing to take that up? Just email or message me, please. Confucius Day, here are 3 of his quotes that are applicable not only to life, but also to martial arts. Number 1, tell people, and they may forget. Show them, they may remember. But involve them, and they will understand. This is something we talked about at the teacher training. It's something that we go into in depth. And just a reminder, November 13th, I've been telling you to keep it open for a while. We're going to open up registration for that event. There will be a limited attendance. Registration will open next week. Got a couple of things Craig and I need to do, mostly me at this point, to open up registration. But this idea of teaching or communicating with words, some people learn best as an audio learner, an audible learner. It's not most people. Other people, you show them, you demonstrate, you write on the chalkboard, whatever it is. Yep, that's going to catch more people. If you do both, you're doing even a little better. But when you involve them, when you have them do it, when you guide them in the act, whether that's doing math problems or learning a form, we did something an all-in weekend. The way I teach forms is very different from most people. And it is, I'll go to the mat on this one. It is much more effective than the way most people teach forms. Show them the first move, and then they do it with you, and you do it a few times. You do it a few times, and you're communicating what that movement is. Then you add the second move, and then you go back to the beginning. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't tell them what it does yet. You're just getting them to do it, right? And that's what's happening here. You're telling them, you're using words, you're showing them, you're doing it with them, and you're allowing them to do it with you. They are participating. They are, can I do this? No, it's not text, I can't highlight. But they are involved in the process. I can teach anybody how to do a form, not great, but I can teach anyone how to do it in under an hour. And they'll remember it. And then you can make it better. Those of you who teach forms, try it. Most people overthink the teaching of forms. They make it take way too long, and they use too many words. Um, some of them, some people who do this, it's because they like to hear themselves talk. But I will say concretely, if you're teaching someone the application of a form, of a movement in a form, and they haven't learned how to do the whole form on their own yet, you're putting the cart before the horse. Don't worry about if the block's in the wrong spot yet. Make sure they can go through the pattern of what it is first. Let's see if I upset anyone. Well, thank you. Dennis says your method of teaching forms is brilliant. Thank you. It was something that was born out of frustration, because I would go to a class and learn the first 10 moves of a form, and I knew way too much detail on those 10 moves. And then I'd get the next 10 and I struggled to combine the pieces. It didn't make sense. It's like, I don't know, the way we learn literally everything else. You stumble your way through it and then you refine it over time. It's also the only debate I ever won with our Latin teacher in high school, who also happened to be the debate coach. The only debate I ever won with him was that the way we learn language is dumb. Because we're going over grammatical rules and all this stuff. And I'm like, look, every child learns language the same way. Imitation, correction, ultimately refinement. Why don't we learn language that way? Hey, guess what? What happens in all of the modern successful language apps? Imitation, repetition, ultimately refinement. Number 2, happiness is not at the top of the mountain, but in how to climb. Easier said than done, right? This idea, we're kind of in conflict here because we are taught to set goals. We want goals. We have goals. I want this. I want to earn this rank. I want to learn this movement. I want to learn this form. I want to compete and perform at this level. Whatever it is, goals are natural. But if the only thing that brings you joy is achieving a goal, you will spend the majority of your time miserable, and achieving that goal will provide a small amount of joy for a small amount of time, or maybe a lot of joy for a small time. And then you have to move on to the next goal. The easiest illustration of this I know are people whose entire approach to exercise is competition. This happens mostly, from what I see, in either the marathon or the triathlete world. They get ready for a race. As soon as they're done with their race, they take whatever time off they need to heal, and then they're back to preparing for the next race. There's always a race, because without it they can't do it, because their happiness is not in how they climb, it's in reaching the top. I've said a number of times, I think belts are going to change. I think martial arts belts are going to change at some point here. I think we've diluted the value as an industry so much that I think it has to. I don't know how it's going to change, but I think it ultimately will change. And that might be a good thing from this perspective. Something to think about. Kelly says, yes, I often have to remind my students when they are teaching patterns to not smother them with details. One correction at a time. One. The internal conflict right now is how much I want to give you that is coming out of the teacher training, and screw it, why not? If you give somebody one thing to correct, they will invest 100% of what they have available into correcting. If you give them two, you'll get 50% on each. You give them three, 30%, right? So you pick the one that is most important, you have them correct that, you make sure that they correct it, they understand it, and it becomes part of them. And only then do you add on the next one or move to the next one. Why would you do anything else? Why would you give them six? Because the people teaching it have an investment of themselves in the student. Say it another way, it's ego. I see all these things that you're doing wrong. Usually, not always, but it usually roots from that. And Jenny says, I always pre-frame when I teach a form. I prefer to get them through the motions. So I let them know that we are not talking about details and they're comfortable with the sequence of moves. Yes. Then my instructor, Mr. Detail, comes along and corrects details while I'm teaching. Mr. Detail and I have had words. Yeah. It's not how people learn. Well, it's how I learned forms. Why would you not want to do it better? Right? We see there's a lot of, even though we often, we talk about these examples of instructors with ego and we think of them in these big dramatic ways, sometimes it manifests in smaller ways. And sometimes it's a really good person who still has like some traces of ego in there that they haven't let go of. And when we look at something like this, it can become very clear that they're not ready. I would say it this way. If you're an instructor, you should always be looking for the best ways to teach your students, regardless of whether or not they are traditional. You can teach traditional material in modern ways. I think that is far more important. I think what people learn is more important than how they learn it. And our last quote from Confucius today: a man is great not because he hasn't failed. A man is great because failure hasn't stopped him. I think I've told you, I don't like the word fail because fail suggests that you're done. I have failed at very few things in my life. I've quit some things because and I guess you can call quitting failure in most of those cases, because I quit because it wasn't going to happen. We weren't going to get where we were trying to go, or I was trying to go. But most of the time, non-success creates an opportunity to do it a different way. That's what whistlekick is. Most people early on in whistlekick would say, oh, this whole thing's a complete failure. Well, guess what? You haven't met me before. I don't lose. I refuse to. And guess what? We're starting to win. We're not winning yet, but we're starting to. And the next few years are going to be a really fun ride. Good morning, Andy. Jenny's tacking on to my statement. It shouldn't really matter how people learn. And she says her husband, Matt, has stories about how he connected with his students. The one that first comes to mind is the student he finally connected with by learning all about the Transformers and using Transformers references to explain the techniques. There you go. Brilliant. Whatever works. Whatever works. When I teach kids, it's often imagine your favorite superhero or monster or animal, and how would they react to things, right? If they're having fun, they'll learn something. If you like this sort of stuff, watch for the teacher training registration next week. We will be announcing it over email on the newsletter and in the Free Training Day Northeast event page on Facebook. Take care. Shubashi. All right. So that takes us to the end. I want to thank everybody for coming by. If you want to support us, we've got the code first couple in 5 for 15% off anything at whistlekick.com. We've got the Patreon, patreon.com/whistlekick, where, let's see, did I post it? I did. If you are in the proper tier, you would have already received a notification by email that I uploaded the text version as opposed to uploading a paperback, because that's really hard to do. I don't know how to do that yet. There's a digital version of the Master Hopkick Special Edition, as well as the cover in your Patreon that you can download and read. Throw it on your Kindle, read it on an iPad. I don't care, whatever. There's a tier that gives you all of the books. And so that's what I did yesterday. And then if you want the entire list of all the things you can do to support us, we've got the family page, whistlekick.com/family. I updated it yesterday. First Cup's the only martial arts morning show, at least that any of us know about. Live 6:30 in the morning, U.S. Eastern Time. Ooh, sneezes. Excuse me. 6:30 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Tomorrow, Friday, we'll have jokes, and we'll see how I do making it through today. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for coming by, and I'll see you for Friday. Go check out that episode with Tony Blauer and tell me what you think.